let's get back to the breaking news we're following. ABC News' bombshell new report on Donald Trump's alleged mishandling of very sensitive national security information after leaving the White House. The former president allegedly sharing this information about U.S. nuclear submarine fleets with a foreign member of this Mar-a-Lago club. Let's get reaction from CNN national security analyst James Clapper. He's the former director of national intelligence. Thanks so much, General, for joining us. According to ABC News, Trump allegedly told this Australian billionaire down at Mar-a-Lago that told him of the supposed exact number of nuclear warheads U.S. submarines carry and exactly how close they supposedly can get to a Russian submarine without being detected. Give our viewers a sense just how sensitive is that kind of information.
Well, Wolf, with due regard for the fact this single source media report and the fact that the special counsel, for whatever reason, chose not to use it for an indictment, with those caveats in mind, this is really, to me, a serious infraction. It is, unfortunately, a part of another in the long litany of violations of our national security by failure to properly protect such sensitive information. If this involved sea-launched ballistic missiles and the subs that carry them, this is a part of our national strategic arsenal, which gets to the very essence of the survival of the nation. So it's hard to overstate, if this is true, hard to overstate how serious this is by affirming knowledge of these submarines with foreigners. And according to the ABC report, as many as 45 people were aware of this, probably more. So this to me is extremely serious if it is in fact true.
That billionaire reportedly shared this highly classified, very sensitive information with foreign officials. He also shared it supposedly with his own employees and even some journalists. What sort of impact could that have on American national security?
Well, it potentially has a huge impact. It could be very damaging, because of the potential for it falling into wrong hands, into an adversary. Meaning specifically the Chinese, or more importantly, the Russians. And if they can validate or not the information that the president was spreading around, that puts in jeopardy not only our national survival, but the jeopardy of these billion-dollar submarines, not to mention, importantly, the lives of crew members.
How do you think foreign adversaries are watching all of this right now, watching all of this unfold?
Well, I think it's unfortunately not new to them, and that's a concern I have, that people are getting jaded to this, and obviously Mar-a-Lago and the former president himself becoming, I'm sure, a target for intelligence, and I think the adversaries view it as a valuable source. And unfortunately, as I said, it would appear that we're getting jaded to this, since it happens so frequently. And you'd think after, well, I guess this happened before the revelation of Mar-a-Lago documents, but it's really words fail me. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Good point. James Clapper, thank you so much for joining us.
A new reporting about Donald Trump's alleged mishandling of classified information this morning. ABC News is reporting months after he left the White House, Trump allegedly shared sensitive information about U.S. nuclear submarines with an Australian billionaire, a man named Anthony Pratt. The reporting is that this happened at Mar-a-Lago in April of 2021, in which an excited Trump, leaning toward Pratt as if to be discreet, told Pratt the supposed exact number of nuclear warheads U.S. submarines routinely carry and exactly how close they can supposedly get to a Russian submarine without being detected. Pratt later described Trump's remarks to 6 journalists, 11 employees, 10 Australian officials, and 3 former Australian prime ministers.
CNN has confirmed that federal investigators have interviewed Pratt as part of the special counsel's classified documents probe. Pratt is also reportedly on the list of potential witnesses who may testify at trial. A spokesperson for Trump issued this statement in response, quote, "These illegal leaks are coming from sources which totally lack proper context and relevant information. President Trump did nothing wrong, has always insisted on truth and transparency, and acted in a proper manner according to the law." So who is the guy that Trump was allegedly spilling classified information to? Well, Anthony Pratt's ties to the former president go back years. Trump even attended the opening of one of Pratt's plants in Ohio. He said this.
A lot of people don't tell you about Anthony, but I'll tell you about Anthony. He is the most successful man in Australia. He's a great man, and he's my friend, and I appreciate it.
Joining us now, CNN senior law enforcement analyst and former FBI deputy director Andrew McCabe. Thanks for coming in. The first thing I want to try and understand, the level of sensitivity of this information. Is this a national security risk? How big of a deal is this?
Well, Phil, it's absolutely a national security risk. There is very little information in our federal government that we protect more seriously than nuclear weapons national defense information. And just as an indicator of that, as most people know, a sitting president, not of course a former president, but a sitting president has the ability to declassify most top secret classified data at his discretion. This is one of those rare categories of information, nuclear weapons material, that is classified not by presidential order, but by statute. So the president himself or herself cannot declassify this information at their own discretion. It is the very heart of the most sensitive material that we have to protect in our federal government.
I found it interesting, too, especially when you put this information in that context, just how sensitive it is. Joe Hockey, the former Australian ambassador to the U.S., downplaying the reporting, telling CNN, and I'm quoting here, that this was a joint program. Similarly, we share weapons technology. If the conversations between Trump and Pratt is as reported, there's been nothing said that we all did not know. Downplaying it there that maybe they knew, but the reality is a private citizen likely should not know and certainly should not share.
Well, that's right, Erica. The former ambassador is certainly correct in terms of his description of how close we are with our Australian colleagues. They are one of our Five Eyes partners, or our closest intelligence partnerships around the globe. However, protecting national security information is not based on making kind of game time, do-it-yourself decisions when you're talking to your buddy at Mar-a-Lago. You have to, we are all obligated to protect that information all the time. And that means complying with the very clear legal regime, the laws that surround how you can discuss information, who you can discuss it to, where this can take place, which of course in this case would only be in a sensitive compartmented information facility, a SCIF. So yes, we are very close to the Australians. Maybe this person or others knew of this information, but that does not make it lawful or a good idea to share that information, certainly somewhere like Mar-a-Lago.
The first question I had is, given the gravity of this, at least in terms of how it appears, why would it not be in the indictment? It's not.
Yeah, that's a good question, Phil. So first of all, let's remember there's already 41 counts in that indictment. So there's plenty for the prosecutors to work with. This would be a really interesting charge because this would be the first charge of dissemination, not just unlawful retention of national defense information, but he could potentially be charged with disseminating national defense information to a foreign national, which carries very serious penalties. However, in this case, what you have is a few people's recollections of what the president may or may not have said. He undoubtedly would dispute that. So there may be underlying evidentiary issues that make this not the strongest issue to bring as an independent charge. However, I'm absolutely confident prosecutors will use this exchange with Mr. Pratt. They'll enter this as evidence of the president's intent and his habit, his pattern of treating national defense information incredibly recklessly. It will ultimately be very damaging at trial against the president.
Okay. Andrew McCabe, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.